Oh, hi there. You're probably wondering what I'm doing with this Fujifilm XF80mm lens. Well, stay tuned and find out. So, the XF80mm 2.8 macro lens from Fujifilm. And before you turn off this video saying, nah, I'm not into shooting bugs and insects and slimy creatures found on the ground, I'm gonna tell you, this lens is perfect for so many other subjects than, the typical 1:1 scale macro shots. But I'm quite baffled by how many people come up to me and say, why do you choose a macro lens for shooting this? Or, I didn't know you could use a macro lens for shooting that. So in this video, I'm going to show you a bunch of images I've shot with this lens. I'm going to tell you a little bit about the different subjects I shoot with it, what I like about it, what I don't like about it maybe. So let's just jump into it and watch some images and hear me babble on about this beautiful lens. And the first thing that I shoot with this lens, kind of like top of my list, is portraits, easier, and fashion stuff. And I choose the lens not because it's a macro lens necessarily, but because of the focal length. And it's also a versatile lens, since it allows me to jump into the scene and pick out some close-ups and some details and stuff like that, and just move back again and shoot full figure, whatever. So it's a flexible lens when it comes to that, because I can vary my distance to the subject quite extremely, since I can move into a 1:1 scale. I also shoot architecture and industrial stuff with it. And again, subjects that usually are shot with the wider angles, but when I need to pick out details or compress the scene and give me the visual look I'm after, I'll gladly use this lens for those kind of subjects. And for nature, of course. And then I bet most of you are thinking, he shoots slimy creatures at 1:1 scale. Not very often. But again, like with the industrial work and architecture stuff, I like when I can pick out details of a scene and just say that, okay, this is the complete scene before me. I wanna focus on this part of it. I'm gonna pick out a little part. I'm gonna compress the perspective. I'm gonna get the look I'm after. So this combined with the wide angle, and I'm happy out in the woods or in the mountains or whatever, shooting some nature stuff. Macro lenses, they're built for, being extremely sharp and giving good results very close up. You can move very close to your subject. And that also means that you can move further away from your subject and keep those same qualities. So that's why I'm happy to pick up a macro lens for whatever work I'm doing. I mentioned sharpness, and the sharpness of this lens is really good. But sharpness isn't always a good thing. I made a portrait of a woman not long ago, and I was shooting tethered to the computer, so we could easily zoom in and out of the picture. And suddenly she burst out, "My God, I have facial hair all over!" And I thought, well, we don't see it live, but the lens picks it out. So a lens like this, a sharp lens like this, can often cause you trouble in post-processing, because you need to be aware that you're picking out all the details, every pore, every wrinkle, everything from, for instance, skin. It's like you probably get. It's a lens I'm quite fond of. Great colors, great sharpness, great unsharpness in those areas, great contrast. It's got a very nice look on the files, this lens. And I love it. It is quite heavy, or heavy is a relative term. But if you mount it on a, let's say you mount it on a camera without the battery grip, I find it gets it's not unbalanced, but I like having a slightly bigger. I prefer it on on a camera with a battery grip instead, or maybe just the tiny grip underneath. But it's this lens needs slightly more weight to the camera, if you ask me. That's personal preference, of course. The aperture ring and the focusing ring are both very good, very smooth, just you know, the perfect resistance and the definite clicks. You also have switches here for limiting your focal range, focal length, blah, blah, blah. Well, you know what I mean, probably. If you don't, look it up elsewhere. Ha! And you also have the switch for turning the stabilizer on and off. And talking about the stabilizer, many people seem to think that the stabilizer is kind of like the God's gift to us photographers. There are times when a stabilizer can work against you. I've seen this in the studio, for instance, when shooting with studio flashes and using the stabilization wasn't really necessary. I had a shutter speed of 250 of a second, and I had studio lights freezing every action, and I had the OIS turned on to stabilize my image, and I could actually see quite a few of the images that had kind of like a slight blur to them. I don't know if that maybe was me moving too fast, so the lens was kind of trying to compensate, and under those conditions it kind of like it didn't manage to solve it good enough, because the OIS is basically for compensating on slower shutter speeds. And I've also seen it outside when I've been using faster shutter speeds in natural light, that I have had images where slight movement blur have been shown up in my images. You can find resources on that on online or here on YouTube. I'm not going to go into more details. It's just how these stabilization systems works. So it's not a bug with this lens or something. You also have the famous my lens is broken. It's not. It's just how the lens relaxes. If you were, at night when you're asleep in the bed, if someone were to pick you up and start shaking you, I probably, your body would probably give some ugly noises as well. So as soon as you attach this lens to camera and turn the camera on and it gets power, like this, no more clunking. No more clunking. So it's just the way this lens is supposed to be. Weird, huh? So if you buy this lens and you hear the clunking sound, it's not broken. It works. It clunks. It works. Okay. Well, another thing, the lens hood, very good lens hood, easily attaches, clicks into place, no falling off, no nothing. It's not hard to get, attach or remove. Perfect, just like it should be, like this. The autofocus is fast and precise, and well, everything here is, it's a great lens. I have to be honest, I often choose the 90 instead. The reasons for choosing this is when I know I'm going to move, in and out of my picture and go closer to a model or a machine or whatever I'm shooting. So if I know that, I choose this lens instead of the 90. And if I know that I need the 1:1 reproduction scale, but otherwise it's quite close to the 90. But all in all, a great lens. And if you haven't tried a macro lens for other subjects than slimy green creatures, go out and do it. Okay, I think that was all this time. I'll be back with more videos. I'm sorry that I don't post videos here more often, but I do this in between my regular work for my clients, and my clients need me more than YouTube does. So, but I'll be back, I promise. Okay, have a nice day, and until next time, bye.